So you remember how last week we talked about being gay is not the end-all and be-all of someone's existence, and those who don't understand this are actually doing more to hurt the cause they are supposed to want to help? Well, this week is in the same vein, but more so in a microcosmic sort of way. This week we're going to be talking about language and how it affects people's perception on the spectrum as a whole. And before you think you know where I'm going with this, no, I'm not going to bring up the whole billion genders thing. That's not my bag of dicks to sling out like a Maury from Big Mouth. No, I'm actually taking a step back to address a much simpler and a much less talked about issue I've seen for the last decade of my life. And that's how a lot of people in the LGBT spectrum have allowed a lot of simple rights and power to be taken from them with the terms they allow themselves to be called. Let's start with a simple one before we talk about the really big one I want to talk about. And that would be how marriage and the marriage ceremony, despite the exact same due processes and legal rights as a hetero marriage, is called a civil union and an exchanging of the rings. This isn't a hard concept to grasp, guys. Having a different term for the exact same thing is no different than separate drinking fountains or even preferred bus seats. Why is it even called that now? As far as I'm aware, gay marriage is still legal in the US, and the governing body that proceeds over it has to recognize it as the same as a straight marriage. So why does it get a different name? Hell, my parents were talking to me about a gay couple who had gotten divorced recently, and for some reason my dad couldn't call it a marriage. Now, to give my dad some credit, he's a creature of habit, and his lack of understanding of changing times is that it's not in his immediate view of life because he has a healthy, strong marriage and relationship with his wife, kids, and family, most of whom are straight. So he wouldn't really need to practice calling a gay marriage a marriage, because everyone that he was either in or in attendance for happened in the 90s, and all of those were referred to as civil unions. So it's been a minute. Don't bite his head off. The ceremony itself has a name as well, and that bothers me too. Like, why isn't it just called a wedding? I'm aware religious fanatics don't want it to have the same name so that they don't have to recognize gay people as on the same level as them, but what I don't understand is why? Who does it hurt to give a simple name that you have been afforded since the wedding was conceived of? Weddings in general were meant to be sales. That's why all the traditions are the way they are. The white dress was meant to show purity and that the girl was a virgin. And when I say purity, I don't mean godliness, I meant that she didn't have an STD. Hence the white dress. The veil was meant to hide a girl's face so that she could be just property and not a person, along with hiding an ugly face and making the purchase about the body and again, not the person. The whole fam-damly coming from out of town was a way to let everyone know what was going on, say goodbye to the girl, and get a day off to witness the sale because otherwise everyone was working on the farm. The wife's family paying for everything? A thank you for taking the girl off their hands. The dowry was akin to a signing bonus. Do you see my point? Why are we treating a business transaction as if it's a God-fearing cult's rite of passage for a lonely woman to find a man to take care of her? Marriage today is meant to be a celebration of someone's commitment to someone else. Doesn't matter if it lasts a lifetime with all the bumps and shakes marriage entails, or if it lasts 20 minutes, shout out to Karen Walker. It's just a commitment to someone, male squared, female squared, or man and woman. It means the exact same thing, so why change the term? It's a distinction without a difference. It's the separate but equal shit from the 60s all over again, and it needs to stop. The last term actually has a story time attached to it, and it's the term partner, or life partner. The only difference between the two is that one is when two people are dating, and then if they're now married. Oh, I'm sorry, committed. Side note, this just hit me. When you say committed in reference to a person, you think of an insane asylum. So that's another little dig on gay people as well. Anyway, back to the show. What annoys me about this one is that it doesn't really make sense. Words have meaning, people, and just because someone is dating or married to someone with the same genitals, and you have a problem with that, doesn't mean you get to give them a pre-existing term with a new definition that you made up to make yourself more comfortable. I've always liked just pluralizing the term that applies best. For instance, two gay men, boyfriends or husband. Two women, girlfriends or wives. It's not hard to understand. The two are sleeping with one another and dating or living together, same as a hetero couple. They aren't a fucking law firm. That's really what I hear when people say the word partner in reference to gay people. I don't know why, it's just how my mind works. It seems to remove the romantic and rather personal nature of the term in question. Anyway, story time. So a while back I worked at a restaurant as a host for the summer, and my boss was a relatively newly out lesbian, about 3 years from when she had her sexual awakening, which was funny to me because the moment I met this woman I was like, yep, she likes her some carpet. And before y'all bitch me out for making a joke like that, she made a lot of them about me, and in general was a very open and kind person. To this day I consider her a person I care about and think about more often than most would about their old bosses. Back to the story. So, I met her and thought she was kind of a les, and sometime into my working there for the second time, 2 different jobs split over 2 different summers, we were talking about relationships and she said something about her partner. Out of respect for you, boss lady, I'm not gonna name names in this story, and I will use that term for said same respect. When she said that word, I looked at her a little confused, I'll admit, and said, "You mean Roxy?" Not a real name. And she said, "Yeah, my partner." We went back and forth, and basically what she had told me was that although my boss loved Roxy as much as her ex-husband, she didn't consider it on the same level as her marriage. In fact, she thought it meant more to her than her marriage, and that baffled me because the word itself had more meaning to her. To me, if I were in that same scenario, married a woman, then realized I was into dem menses, I would think calling the new relationship and subsequent marriage a marriage would make it feel a lot more real than my life partner, and that kind of comes down to my blunt nature. It's something that I've always had. While I do respect people and try to be tactful, I would much rather tell you off or explain why you're wrong in a simple, straightforward sentence, essentially just cutting through the bush rather than beating around it. Why would I hide something like that behind a curtain when I could walk out in public, kiss him full on the lips as long as we wanted, and say fuck you to people who had a problem with it? Because it's just a kiss. I'm not riding him bareback while dripping wax on him in the mall. It's a kiss. Something else that pisses me off about people and their reception to gay people is kids in general. Gay people will not turn your children gay by sheer virtue of existing or showing affection to one another in public. Hell, that would mean gay people wouldn't exist, since straight people would just be showing and rubbing hetero stuff onto their kids. I mean, showing gay affection might lead the kids to ask some questions, either to you or themselves. And that's a wonderful thing. I ask a lot of questions all the time, both in-depth and general things. And I'm 22. I don't know jack about shit about dick about anything, and most people think I'm overthinking everything, but most of the time the question pops in my head from nowhere. A fairly recent example of this phenomenon is, how did the name Richard come to be? Was someone talking about a rich person like, "Hey, who's their rich artard?" And that's how the name came to be? And the sad thing is, I was genuinely curious where it came from, and that was my logical answer that came out of my own brain in the middle of the afternoon. I'm not saying that's the real answer, but it's the one that made me laugh, so it was something to work from. And kids ask a lot of questions as it is, so asking stuff like, "Why are those two men kissing like you and daddy?" is a good thing because it will tell them later on that questioning their sexuality is worth doing. Just let them. It's not a bad thing. If they suck a few dicks or lick a few vaginas, who cares? It's in their past and they might realize a lot about themselves. I don't know why people treat being gay or whatever you want to call yourselves as such a big damn deal. From the attitude people have, both inside and out of the... God, I hate the word community. I'm trying to find a better word to describe it. Hell, I'll think of it later. Anyway, how people treat the concept of being part of LGBT really gets under my skin because it's the same kind of weirdness race has had since slavery was a thing. Only now both LGBT and racial shit have an odd taboo feel to them, especially when it comes to representation. That's a whole can of worms I'll get into for another time, but suffice to say I don't really care either way. Having a black or Hispanic or Asian actor in the role that has no real cultural relevance to the story doesn't really bother me since it's just a role, because at that point it's a voice job, not a skin color job. If you get the role, it's because of the talent you bring to it, not that you were owed it. Gay people in movies and games and whatnot is more of an obvious thing because, well, as I've said for years now, it doesn't really matter how the story is written. You can write a well-rounded, funny, and touching story between two straight people and then just gender swap one of them and boom, your job's done. The story is already written. It's now just the matter of changing pronouns and the character design. And when I say character design, I mean the way the character looks, not their behavior or interests. Because, again, gay is nothing more than a genital attraction at its base form. To take this back to my original point about words and terms about and around the gays and like, I have to say, get over it. And just give them the word straight people have been using since the dawn of marriage. Also, the word queer is the same as saying the N-word. Stop using it. All of you. My name is Chris, and I'm a YouTuber, not a lawyer, so don't say partner to me, unless we're in a country bar and I've had a few. Next time, something a little more upbeat, and... oh, what's the word? And... why does it burn?